people have been abusing CopilotKit, or like, I don't know, from our perspective, it's like using it in surprising ways. Like I saw people integrating CopilotKit into a Zoom call agent. I was like, whoa, how the heck did you do that?
Wow.
I was like,
cool.
But it actually made sense. And, they talk to the Zoom and it does stuff in their app.
Atai has been focused on the user experience side of AI agents for as long as anyone I've met, nearly 3 years. And CopilotKit is integrated in and works with all of the major platforms, as well as like indie developers who are rolling their own agentic loop. And he is in a very good position to see what's happening in the agent landscape, like everything from crazy and unexpected use cases to the massively scaled but boring enterprise use cases. So we talk about all of that, but I really enjoyed parts of this conversation where we talked about like, how do you take an existing SaaS application stack and agentify it? And what are the user experience things in there that you have to contend with when you're building real systems? It was a great conversation. And, Atai first demoed this stuff as a side project at an AI Tinkerers meetup years ago, and is now a funded company growing and a sponsor of AI Tinkerers. This is not a sponsored conversation. This is just an educational conversation, and I hope you really enjoy it. Thank you.
Hello, AI Tinkerers, and welcome to One Shot. This is our global stage where we meet the innovators who are pushing the boundaries in some ways. We get them to show us under the hood to enable you and your projects. I'm so excited today. We're here with Atai from CopilotKit, the founder. And I'm excited to learn how do we get started with CopilotKit, what it does, what are some of the key scenarios, and also your perspective, if you can share, on practical agents generally. Because I know you work with everyone from indie hackers all the way up to the biggest enterprises. And so you must see what's actually rolling out and where are we in the market. So welcome, Atai. Thank you.
All right, Joe, great to be here.
So cool. And we got to tell everyone the story of how we met.
Yeah, let's do that.
So we're at an AI Tinkerers meetup, one of the original ones back in Seattle. And I had just built the platform feature where you can actually apply to speak, and there's a screening for the demos themselves. And I had this tool. I was so proud of it. And we had the roster set. And this guy comes up to me, Atai right here.
I was between meetings, between presentations.
Were you still working at your previous job at that point, or were you?
I was already a startup, but actually CopilotKit was a side project that had nothing to do
with
the
is perfect for AI Tinkers.
Yeah.
So in classic, he comes up to me with his laptop open, and he's like, "Hey man, I know I'm not on the roster, but can I present tonight?" And he has his laptop with like screen, a scrolling green screen, and I'm like, who is this guy? I just built this feature. Why can't you use it? And it's fine, show me. And he showed it to me. I thought it was amazing. It was so cool. And fast forward to today, you've got a funded company growing, major customers. You're actually a sponsor now of AI Tinkerers in different cities around the world. Right. It's really fun to kind of grow up together in a way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the AI Tinkerers community is one of the best communities out there for AI, hands down.
Thank you. That's awesome. I keep hearing the stories like the one I just told. I heard, we all know Granola, and they just got a huge round of funding this past week or two, and they someone said, "Oh yeah, the very first demo was in London." AI Tinkerers.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I hear that all the time for different things. Browser use guys. First demo, Zurich, AI Tinkerers. Really cool. Let's get started on your stuff. Like, show people what it can do. Like, can you build something live or like?
Yeah, we can build something. So maybe I'll zoom out just for a second.
Cool.
So CopilotKit is infrastructure for building copilots, which are user interactive agents as opposed to autonomous agents, right? So if you want your agents to be user interactive, which you want for a few reasons, which we can get to, we help you bring agents into applications interacting with users. Yeah. So CopilotKit has two parts to it. There's the standard agent, which lets you just bring context awareness to applications really, really easily. And then there's CoAgents, which brings low-level agents designed by any of the frameworks into applications. So we can operate on both of these sides, and actually they have a lot of intersection.
What's an example of a CoAgent, just so people can be concrete?
Yeah. So kind of Cursor would be a CoAgent, right? Okay. So you have an application with an agent that is designed with a lot of attention to it, right? You have a lot of low-level attention on the agent itself. Yeah. But ultimately, this agent is working alongside a person.
That seems really useful because we have existing companies with existing software interfaces, et cetera. And then now we've got this whole world of like MCP servers and tools and incredible abilities, and then this low-level kind of frameworks or models with thinking and reasoning. And how do I bridge those together and put them in my app? Is kind of that's what CoAgents from Copilot.
Exactly. You have an agent. MCP lets you bring tools to it.
Yeah.
A2A Google lets you connect it to other agents. We actually just launched CoAgents evolved into AGUI, which we just launched a few days ago. Agent User Interaction Protocol. With actually really enormous reception. It's day 3 at over 1,500 GitHub stars.
Nice.
Millions of views. That AGUI connects the agent to the user inside the application.
Okay. Cool.
So that's
Which is important. I mean, people go like, it's funny that you framed it autonomous or not, because at the end of the day, any system's going to serve a human at some point in the journey. Like, I might be sleeping and wake up in the morning, and I'm going to review the results of what my agent did autonomously all night long. There's still a human interaction. I don't want to be totally out of the loop.
That's for now.
Okay, so maybe AGI will change that. Show us the thing. Let's build something.
Let's do it. Let's build something.
Okay.
Actually, what I'm going to show here is from our AGUI quick start. So you can actually, if you go to the AGUI protocol, we have a bunch of these quick starts for LangGraph, Master CoAI, AG2. A bunch of the other ones are coming very, very soon.
Cool.
And so what I just prepared here is we have a standard LangGraph agent in this case. And this is just a showcase of the AGUI part of CopilotKit. And I'm just going to run it. So let's see if I...
And while you're doing that, you mentioned LangGraph. You fragment work agnostic, or do you have a small set that you support, or what?
Yeah, so we're framework agnostic. We start with LangGraph, and then basically all the other ecosystems really wanted the same things for their ecosystem. That's why we made AGUI. So it's a really bottom-up protocol that allows us to define this thin layer, and then anybody can go and implement.
So do you also support for indie hackers the DIY agentic frameworks?
Yes. You can bring your own DIY agent frameworks. You can actually do a no framework.
Yeah. I know a lot of people have just rolled their own.
Yeah, no, that's true. There's a very long tail of your own kind of handmade. So
and it works pretty well.
Yeah, no, it works.
Okay.
Yeah, so AGUI, it's a really lightweight event-based protocol.
Okay.
So basically you just need to emit one of 16 events as the agent is running. You have to accept one of a few inputs. And if you do that, then everything else kind of works.
What are those events? Like, just to give me a tangible idea of what are we talking about?
Yeah, so it's anywhere from, like, again, 16, not that many of them.
Yeah.
So text emission events, right? So for that's for the chat interfaces.
Okay.
Data emission events. So you can say, here's a data message. And that's good for example, thinking steps, for generative UI, things like that.
Okay, cool.
And there is support for all the weird things you have to worry about. So for example, you can stream partial deltas of the JSON, right? So as the data comes in, you can also have deltas of the actual JSON, not just partial streaming of a single JSON, but let's say that's for state synchronization. That's another one of the events in the protocol. You can emit state, and you can emit the state change. So all these kind of weird edge cases taken care of. And maybe before I even show a demo, I can just show the, let's do, here, let's take the CoAgents landing page here. So we have this feature viewer, which is also, we call it now the AGUI dojo. So it's a bunch of these kind of hello world size building blocks for what the protocol provides. And then we have like example apps built with these things that we can show, what can you build with it. So, first, kind of but not least, is just chat, obviously. So you can chat with this thing. And CopilotKit provides, on the client side, the full spectrum from fully headless UI, where you just get the data that goes in these things, including all the other things I'll show soon, all the way to pre-built components you can customize.
Like React components I can just plug in?
Yeah, that's exactly. Great. Yeah, and you can put custom CSS, custom subcomponents, whatever you want.
Nice.
And then, we gave this thing front-end tool calls just as kind of a thing. So asked it to, set the green gradient, let's make it, more colorful or something.
Cool.
And you'll do that. So that's front-end tool calls, another one of the building blocks of, AGUI.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend my time with hacking that stuff. I want to focus on my workflows, my logic, my tool, my backend, the APIs that I already have that I want to integrate and expose to AI, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. And anybody building with agents, knows that these things might look simple at a glance, but the UI part, the user interaction part, is a huge pain. It is. And we basically take it off the table. Cool. So that's an example, human in the loop. So there's a bunch of these. People can go and explore those. There's a shared state one, which is pretty neat. Maybe I'll show that in a second. Like, create the, spicy pasta dish. That's good. Neat. And you see here, as the agent is running, it's updating the front end state, and it goes both ways. You can go and...
What's under the hood of this, just to give us a tangible idea of like shared state? Like, how do I, as a developer, I have my state, which is my existing app, right?
Yeah. So it's super straightforward. So for React apps, we have this hook called use CoAgent. And it basically just replaces use state. And so, in React applications, you have use state. It gives you state and state, right? And that's local state to your app. If you use CoAgent, you now have agent state and agent set state, and it's bidirectionally synced in both directions. Again, with support for efficient streaming, for security, if there's some field that you only live in one side or the other. So, but from the developer standpoint, you just have state and set state. That's it.
Okay.
So that's kind of one side of this. Cool. And getting started with this is super easy. So we did the career. Let's plug the other guys now. Langaf agent. So just gonna start the agent. What's the command here? Let's see if it's in my history. Oh, there we go. Yeah, npx langchain dev. Anybody working with langchain knows this. Yep. We now launch this agent. This is a debug view for the agent, right? This is not CopilotKit. This is if you coded the agent. That's what you have. This is the debugger view.
Okay.
We have the URL now for this agent. So we're gonna go through the CLI, and actually let me go back to a fresh state because I already did this before.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna run the CLI and do. This is just a fresh Next.js app.
Okay.
Nothing here.
Okay.
I'm gonna run the CopilotKit CLI, which is npx CopilotKit latest, and we're doing a do B for booth mode. This is kind of the faster quick start. I'm gonna drop the URL that we got before. So we got the localhost 188.123. We're just gonna do yes to everything. This uses a Chatien registry under the hood to kind of give you a nice initial experience, no matter what framework you use.
Cool.
And
while you're doing this, like you have some of this is open source. You have a cloud service. Is that the model?
Yeah. So CopilotKit is open source. We have additional functionalities enabled for folks who have API key enabled, so you can continue to self-host, but have additional functionality.
Interesting. Like what?
Like for example, some of the headless UI components. So this is things that are more enterprise facing, right? So things that require like really deep customization that most people don't want. Only the large companies want. So that's where we kind of monetize.
And for the open source, is there arduous setup to hosting it, or is this really just a locally run DSL that I can generate stuff with, or how does that?
So actually purposely made it really easy to self-host the open source part. So we kind of split CopilotKit into two parts: the open source, what we call Copilot runtime, which is just a stateless node server. So that's pretty trivial to self-host.
And do you have how many contributors to the open source have you had?
I'm not sure, honestly. We can check. Probably hundreds.
Hundreds, really? Okay. So you're basically saying you're not fake open source.
No, we're real open source.
There's a lot of fake open source out there, unfortunately.
It's true.
You're real open source.
We're for better and for worse, we're really real open source.
It may not be the best thing for you, but it's the best thing for the community.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
And then Copilot Cloud is kind of a separate cloud native counterpart to the open source part.
Okay. Cool. All right, awesome. Well, is there anything more to this demo, or do you want to show the next? Where can we go?
Yes, I can show the thing running. So I went through the CLI. Let's just go to the localhost. So basically, what the CLI does is it adds a page to your application / CopilotKit, which you can then kind of use as your starting point to go and customize stuff.
Oh, so I'm actually the CLI is building a server that I'm going to run as part of my infra to host the endpoint for your stuff to talk to.
Yeah. So this specific route that we went through. Is using CoAgents, right? Which is you have your agent coded somewhere else, and you only want to bring that agent into an application.
Yes.
Like I said,
that's what I want.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you just give the URL of the agent. Yeah. That's what you do. And if it's a AGUI compatible agent, which now Langaf, CoAI, Mastra, Agno, AG2, and soon Bedrock is currently in the works by AWS themselves, and a bunch more in the process right now. Nice. And so any URL of agents compatible with AGUI protocol, you can bring into agents, and then this is what you get on the front. So for example, you can get now, one of the examples it gives us here is, set the theme to orange. Let's just do that.
Yep.
And write a proverb about AI, or maybe let's do about turtles, just so you see it's not fake.
Okay. So you've gone through basically the steps that I could go through to create a bridge to CoAgents within my existing app. And now that I've done that, we've got the hooks in where I could eventually add more functionality over time. That's like, so basically if I wanted to create an interface that was more of an agent style interaction with a human involved, that would have access to all the functionality of my existing app, but just a better user experience, that would be the way.
So there's two reasons why you want to bring agents into applications. One, like what we call the SaaS Copilot. And that's if you have a SaaS application, and there's a lot of things you can do, but it's extremely complicated.
Yeah.
Right. And you
There's
want to learning curve, and you have to do many steps in many different places, and go find the right menu. We've all been there, right? Like where the heck is this menu? I know this can do that. How? So the SaaS Copilot just provides an intent-based interface into this application, right? So it's like, I want to add a credit card with a PIN code on it or with a limit on it.
Love it.
And just go and do it for you. And then the second side is kind of the cursor for anything, right? So I mean, developers this is the kind of almost industrial revolution level productivity gains, right?
Yeah.
Where you're no longer working by yourself. The mental model is you're working alongside this other intelligent entity.
Yeah.
That is better than you at some things, worse at other things, and together you can really be extremely efficient.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And it's a vibe too. I think vibe coding is. Some people don't like the name. I think it's a great name because it communicates. It's not just productivity. It's fun.
Yeah, cool. What are some of the applications out there that you're seeing across the spectrum? Like, we're all experimenting with agents. We've read about some things that got funding and there's excitement, but like I'm asking like from a practical level, you're working with, and you've integrated this into frameworks that you mentioned, right? And they see what's happening in the market, and they're seeing these things take off. Where are the practical agents scaling? Where are they taking off? How are people using this? That's like the real wins for today.
Yeah, so I would say the SaaS Copilots are now just starting to really take off.
Yeah,
I think people have been talking about them for a bit, but like now they're actually starting to be implemented in large companies.
What is the product roadmap driver that says we need this now? What are they doing with it?
Just making their users kind of competing in the market, I suppose.
Just being a better interface, basically, making it simpler and more powerful.
As people, as the users have gotten used to ChatGPT, and they know what technologically should be possible. They're like, why do I need to do all this stuff?
Yeah, I guess, they made tons of investment into these incredible capabilities, but it's a complex UI. You have to be trained and educated.
Right.
They can unlock a lot of that value just by creating a more familiar interface. Now we're all trained with ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. So the SaaS Copilots are starting to pick up. And then the core Copilots, they're really kind of, I think, they're here, right? So they're getting built in a bunch of places. And as developers, we've all seen what this looks like in the developer world. Yeah. But this is coming for project managers and insurance providers and tax accountants and really every profession. Yeah. And then their driver. So obviously they're starting to build this for the market, but a lot of actually the driver there is from large enterprises that are trying to make some internal process much more efficient, right? So they have 1,000 people doing some job.
Yeah.
If they can make them even just 10% more efficient, that's a big deal. And if they can make them a lot more efficient, that's a bigger deal. So there's a bunch of companies with 1,000-person teams doing some job, and if they're building a coworker Copilot for these folks, just speed them up.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. I know you've got to wrap in a few minutes, so we'll kind of shift gears a little bit. Is there anything else on the Copilot side that you'd like to share? How would people learn more? Where would they get started? First of all?
So go to our website or to our GitHub. Our docs is actually the best place to get started. So docs.CopilotKit.ai. But
do you have Discord or anything like that?
We have a very active Discord. We answer support questions. Cool. So try to make it as easy as possible to get started.
Okay, cool. And then I guess we've talked about how you found AI tinkerers and got started there. What are you tinkering on? There's so much dropping all the time. It's impossible, even if you have a startup that you're focused on, to not take a nights and weekend or even just whatever to go and tinker with stuff. What are you excited about right now? What are things that have that you're tinkering with, that you've played with recently that have impressed you?
There's a bunch of things, honestly, but I think from the things that are most also intersection with a business, because that's all I got time for, honestly. Yeah. Well, I can give some people ideas for what I wish I would have done if I wasn't doing a startup. But from on the business side, I think templates for these kind of coworker copilots for different use cases. Okay. So one is the coding thing. Right? So one thing we see is, there's a bunch of these V0s, bold.new, Replit agents, a bunch of these kind of verticalized assistants that are really good at something. And a lot of businesses want to build that for their own some internal vertical, basically. So making that easy, I think, is really cool. Voice is another thing that I think is not quite become production ready, but I think it's huge potential.
Yeah.
And we've seen some, inklings of that. And honestly, I as a personal user just use ChatGPT voice a lot.
I think there's a lot of little vertical voice not niche, but very focused apps that are taking over just an enormous number of like, there's still a lot of phone calls that happen, a lot of voice interactions that
Right.
business processes that.
But I don't even mean that.
No
I
one
mean,
enjoys it.
like in the Copilot style.
Oh yeah.
So,
Have you gotten there with multimodal and that? in
yeah,
the
so
platform?
we have some support for voice, and we have for multimodality. For actually, a contributor open source added media support. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Nice.
But we have some support for voice. But what we want is that the kind of voice to voice real time. We don't have that yet, but we have that soon. But on the chat side, everybody initially, I think we didn't give enough credit to the chat interface.
Yeah.
I think the way we come to think of it is chat is kind of Slack with an agent. Right. It's just open-ended communication protocol or medium between two intelligent entities.
Yeah.
And I think voice can take it from Slack with an agent to kind of literally talking to a colleague who's not literally next to you, but sort of.
Speaking of, if I was going to co-agent my app, my existing app, and build these kind of functions using everything you showed, that's great. If I wanted to then take the next step and like push some of them into Slack or into email or into like a support queue or something, I want to extend all those functionalities. Does your platform get into those things or?
So not yet. No. So we do see our kind of mission as bridging human and artificial intelligence. Under the belief that for the foreseeable future, instead of that's the humans plus AI can tackle is just much more interesting than just humans or just AI. Our focus for the foreseeable future is on the real time use case.
Okay.
But I think as agents become kind of better, more autonomous, there's more opportunities for mixing and the more asynchronous.
Okay. 2 questions. You don't have to name names. What is the craziest, most creative and innovative use of your stuff you've seen from the indie community? It's exciting and you didn't think about that, and it was left field, kind of crazy, creative, innovative. And then what's the largest customer, most incredibly useful and impactful enterprise thing that you're most excited about?
Yeah. Most crazy stuff. So honestly, at this point, starting to get used to this, but like these kind of core copilots for different use cases. At the beginning, it was super, super exciting. People have been abusing CopilotKit, or like, I don't know, from our perspective, it's like using it in surprising ways. Like I saw people integrating CopilotKit into a Zoom call agent. I was like, whoa, how the heck did you do that?
Wow.
It's like,
cool.
But it actually made sense. And, they talk to the Zoom and it does stuff in their app. So that was
interesting.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I could see that for live Zoom call, webinar moderation tasks.
Yeah.
Go and do this and pull up this data and show a slide, or who knows, right?
No, for sure. And on the customer side, I mean, we're at this point working with a few folks on the Fortune 500, even Fortune 100, and more and more teams inside of those companies. And so it seems people, this thing is happening right now. So
I might have some leads for you.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's great to have you on. I know we've got a wrap here, so let's go ahead and do that. But thank you so much for everything, and it's wonderful to have you in the community and to be able to sit down and have you show it off. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Atai.